Who is the fourth best team in the SEC at this point, guys? Of course, this is a conversation. This is a debate where it's going to evolve, right, in the coming weeks. It's going to evolve. We're going to figure things out as these teams, simply put, just play each other. And I think you're going to see the top of the league separate themselves from the middle of the pack to the bottom third, what have you. But as you look at the Tuesday night action, guys, some very interesting results. We'll start there. First off, in Tuscaloosa, and it wasn't a lot of drama, by the way. We talked about this yesterday, which road team that was an underdog, might, excuse me, have the best opportunity to go into a hostile environment and pull an upset, what have you. None of them did it. I think the only team that covered was Vandy, who was an 8.5-point favorite. They lost the game, or excuse me, 8.5-point underdog. They lost the game by 8 points. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just that was it. That was it. Everybody else either got blown out or the home favorite covered. You start in Tuscaloosa, guys. Alabama just took South Carolina to the woodshed, specifically in the second half of that game, by the way. In the first half, it looked like your typical South Carolina game this season, who has a top 20 defense. They're holding opponents, or they were, to 63 points per game, right? Alabama, an offense that averages, I think, like 92 points per game, only had 30 at halftime. You thought to yourself, okay, South Carolina, to pull the upset, is doing everything they need to do. And I think what last night showed is, for an Alabama team, Nate Oates' squad that has not been clicking to this point, right? I think they haven't exactly lived up to the hype and expectations that many of us had for them. If you go cold against Alabama for any period of time, there's a good chance they're going to make you pay. And that's exactly what happened in this game, guys. South Carolina, literally with 18 second-half points, they could not make anything. Mark Sears goes off for Alabama. Again, a really big win. And the way they pulled away in that second half, guys, I think it just really shows what Bama is capable of, right? Again, this was a team, high expectations. Nate Oates is one of the best coaches in the SEC. And for whatever reason, I think a slow start, obviously, when you're replacing the number of players that Alabama has been replacing this season. You tend to get off to a slower start. But, I mean, they just really flex their muscles. And now I think, guys, you look at South Carolina moving forward, the bigger question for them is how do you respond, right? You're going to take your licks in this conference. Like, you're going to lose some games. Now, the way they lost, it's concerning. They got to have somebody outside of Michie Johnson step up, right? South Carolina was a really fun story to this point. 13-1. The only loss was on the road in a really close game to a top 20 team, top 25 team in Clemson, if you will. But this is the first real bit of adversity that South Carolina men's basketball has faced, and it's only one game. I don't think folks should hit the panic button, but if it becomes a trend, if it snowballs, if South Carolina lets this Alabama game carry over, you got a road game at Mizzou on Saturday, you lose that one, things can snowball in a hurry in the SEC. But, guys, on the flip side, how about Alabama, man? Again, I think they just showed they flexed their muscles. Hey, if you're not careful, and if you have an off shooting night, Alabama has the offense to beat anybody in the conference. Guys, you look at that game, Kentucky and Missouri. Cats take care of business, 90-77. Hey, give Mizzou credit. A team that just lost to Georgia, guys. They're going to be a desperate, hungry team this weekend. 0-2 in SEC play now. But I thought, battled for the most part, really battled. I mean, you look at the kid, Sean East II, who's averaging 17 points per game. He had 19 points in that game against the Kentucky Wildcats, was their leader. Noah Carter down low, who had 20 points for the Missouri Tigers. So they had some standouts on the road. Bates with 18 points. Those were the top three scorers. But Kentucky just too much, man. When's the last time we saw a Kentucky team like this that could shoot the three ball the way they do? I mean, they shoot the lights out when it comes to three. Just 7 for 23 last night. But still, guys, this Kentucky team, they like to shoot from deep, and normally they're making it. Normally they're making it at a very high clip. Dillingham, Mitchell, Wagner, they're fantastic players. Reeves as well. Of course, Aaron Bradshaw, guys, the veteran. That's a fantastic team that Cal's got, and I think certainly that is a Final Four caliber team that Cal has in Lexington. So, again, a really nice win for Kentucky. LSU beats Vandy, like I mentioned, 77-69. How about this, guys? LSU matching their SEC win total from last year. We've played 2 SEC games. They've won 2. There's 16 games left. So what Matt McMahon is doing, guys, really impressive. Again, protecting the home floor. And Vanderbilt, I think they fall to 5-10 now overall. Year 5 of Jeffrey Stackhouse. Rough. Very, very rough. If there's one thing we know right now, guys, at this point, Vandy is at the bottom. They are the worst team in the SEC. That's not up for debate. They are absolutely terrible. I will be shocked at this point with the way the season's going if Vanderbilt does not make a move on Jerry Stackhouse. Finally, guys, from last night's action, the Auburn Tigers. We knew this game between Auburn and Texas A&M was going to be a rock fight, and it lived up to the hype, guys. 66-55 to the final. I think that says a lot, guys, about Auburn pulling away in that basketball game. Again, Texas A&M under Buzz Williams, you know they're going to click at some point. You hold Wade Taylor to just 8 points in this game. The defense was fantastic, guys. They held, get this, they held Texas A&M, guys, to 29% shooting. 29%. I mean, that is crazy. Williams with 22, Johnson with 14. Auburn, I think Auburn, guys, this conversation we're having, they have established themselves as one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the SEC, with Bruce Pearl leading the way. This is a team that went far last year. Again, I think they are realistically a team that, if things click, this team has the potential to make a really, really deep run in March Madness, be a maybe even Final Four caliber team. Bruce Pearl's got him a damn good basketball team. That was a solid win over a Texas A&M team that I think is going to prove to be much better than what their record says right now. Guys, as we turn our attention to tonight, Mississippi State hosting the Tennessee Volunteers. And guys, you look at this game, Tennessee, I think we could all agree, one of the top 2 teams in the SEC. One of the top 2 teams in the SEC. As we look at the spread, if I can get it pulled up here, I'm just looking for it. Okay. Tennessee is a 2.5-point favorite at Mississippi State, guys. This is a great night for home underdogs. Great night. I don't know that I'm picking State to pull the upset, but I tell you what, the physicality in this game is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Also, what does Tolu Smith do for Mississippi State? Can Adu follow up his performance for Tennessee from last game to tonight? Really excited for this one, guys. I think Mississippi State, they're one of these teams, guys. Mississippi State, we kind of don't know what they are yet. Lost to South Carolina on their home floor over the weekend, trying to bounce back on their own home floor, right? I think Mississippi State's a team that's going to be really, really pesky. I don't know that they're one of the top 2 or 3 best, but I could see them being a 10-8, 11-7 type of conference team. They've still got a lot of talent. Tennessee, the 2.5-point favorite on the road. Georgia hosts the Arkansas Razorbacks. Guys, get this. You want to know how far Arkansas has fallen. Georgia's a 1.5-point favorite in this game. I would have never believed that in the preseason. And give Georgia credit. I mean, give Georgia a lot of credit. I think Georgia's a team, we're not necessarily itching to give a lot of respect because it's Georgia basketball. Like, when is Georgia good at basketball? They can earn a lot of respect tonight. They get this dub. And for Arkansas, man, I know you're on the road, but man, at some point, you feel like Eric Musselman's group has got to get it turned around, or we could see things go off the rails, no doubt. And finally, guys, Florida is a 2.5-point favorite at Ole Miss. Now, this might be a battle between 2 teams that could realistically argue that they're the 4th best team in the SEC as we have this conversation. Really pumped for this one, guys. Ole Miss is a really tough place to play. Florida coming off of that loss at home to Kentucky. Really good Kentucky team, obviously. I'm excited because I think there's going to be fireworks in this one. I will say this. I think of the 2 road favorites, I think there will be an upset in one of those games. I think there will be an upset. Let me go ahead and pick it, by the way. I'm going to take Tennessee at Mississippi State. I'm going to take Georgia against Arkansas. I can't put any faith in Arkansas until I see them show up. I think Ole Miss is going to bounce back. They were embarrassed against Tennessee. Everybody's calling them fraudulent. Everybody's saying they're no good, right? That was, they skated through non-conference. I think Ole Miss tonight proves they were worth the hype. And I think Florida falls to 0-2. Both these teams desperate to stay out of an 0-2 hole in conference play. Now, again, this begs the question, guys. Who is truly the fourth best team in the SEC? Is it Alabama, who I think has a strong case? Is it Ole Miss, who I think tonight can prove a lot? Is it Florida? Same thing. I would probably say right now, guys, I do think it's the Alabama Crimson Tide. I do. I think it's the Alabama Crimson Tide right now. This can change. This probably will change, this conversation. I think that Tennessee, Kentucky, and Auburn, for now, have separated themselves from the rest of the SEC. I think they're in a different class. I think they're in a tier by themselves. In your second tier, I think that Alabama is at the top of that. I think you could have argued South Carolina before last night, right? Ole Miss, you can argue, but they need to bounce back from that beatdown against Tennessee. Florida, they need to get a big win tonight. I think Florida is in that discussion. Mississippi State maybe could be in the discussion, but, they lost to South Carolina, who got killed by Alabama. So I think right now, Bama is that team, right? Able to survive at Memorial Gymnasium, able to take South Carolina to the woodshed, a team that folks were really high on. I think it's Alabama right now, but make no mistake, I think this is a conversation that will evolve as this 2023-2024 season plays out.